All right, so we are live on YouTube as well as on Instagram. Um, Welcome everyone. It's 4:56. We still have roughly about 4 minutes. Had a little trouble there with YouTube for a second, but I have a degree in IT, and I finally just got to use it in the last minute and 23 seconds. So that came in handy. I'm going to back up here. Now that both of these forums are live, I'm going to get set up on my mat. I encourage you to go ahead and do the same. We're going to spend these last couple of minutes giving everybody who wants to join this broadcast the opportunity to do so. And while we do that, I'll talk a little bit about, I think everything looks good from where I'm sitting. So my name is Christian Frazier, and I am a teacher with Space Yoga Studio. I am also the director of a nonprofit that partners regularly with Space Yoga. Welcome to Wednesday afternoon's virtual session. This is produced by Space Yoga Studio as well as Project Create Space. This session is going to last right around 45 minutes. Given the platforms that we are broadcasting out across today, that's really the time limits that we have to work with. I'm going to move just for a moment so I can adjust this YouTube camera just a little bit. There we go. Okay. So we got about 2 minutes left before we get started. We are going to start seated today. I mentioned that at the top of the broadcast. While this broadcast is going on and throughout the week and however long this quarantine lasts and these virtual sessions hold up, please feel free after the session today to go to Space Yoga Studio's website out there on the interwebs. There is a link embedded within the website where you can make donations to Project Create Space. And so your attendance in these sessions, as with the studio itself, they're driven by donation. The reason I bring that up, not only do I teach in the studio, I teach the beginner classes in studio, but I am one of Project Create Space's teachers as well. And I take classes to the Bridges of Hope out in Louisville, Georgia. I also take classes to the Augusta Men's Transitional Center. That is the federal halfway house that allows men the opportunity to begin working while they're still incarcerated prior to being discharged back into their communities. So that experiential level of care that we provide to them is unmatched. It's unlike anything else that they get to do while they are still serving time. It helps with anxiety, depression, stress reduction. It also provides them the opportunity to release anything they're holding negatively in their bodies. And it really ultimately just benefits them and then society as a whole once they rejoin us. But we also take classes to the Children's Medical Center, the Hope House, the VA, and just several different Richmond County schools, and the list goes on and on. So everything that you give to Project Create Space helps to fund those programs and make yoga available to underserved populations that would probably not otherwise have access. So just feel free to go to spaceyogastudio.com and find that Project Create Space link and make those donations there. Anything you have. And if you have nothing, please stay online and enjoy this practice with us today. It is the top of the hour. Look at that. I am gifted not only in communication, but also in yoga. Not so much the yoga part. But having said that, I'm going to be offering beginner level style posture sequence today. Like I mentioned, it'll last around 45 minutes. We'll start with some groundwork. We'll make our way to standing. I believe both cameras are set up to capture me once I'm standing. And ultimately, we'll work our way back down to the ground. And at the very end, we will take between 3 and 4 minutes of quiet meditation time, otherwise referred to as Shavasana. Now, I will be sitting here for those 3 minutes, and you're welcome to join me in a seated posture. You can also lie back in the prone corpse position on your mat. And I will give you the cues once your time is coming to an end. But welcome. Thank you for joining us today. If you didn't catch it because you're just joining, my name is Frazier. I'm a teacher at Space. We're going to be doing beginner practice today, and thank you. Thank you for being here with us. So just make sure that you go ahead and sit up nice and tall. You can rock into those sit bones. We want to have a nice, rooted, grounded, firm hold on the earth with our sit bones. You're welcome, invited rather, to close down your eyes here for a moment. And I just want you to begin to focus on your breath. I don't want you to attempt to alter it or change it or deepen it. I just want you to see where it is right now in this moment. And just be aware. With your eyes closed and your attention on your breath, take this time to begin to form an intention, something that you hope or desire to get out of this practice over the next 40 minutes or so. It could be something spiritual, mental, physical. It could be a blend of all three of those things. Just give yourself permission to receive whatever gifts this practice can offer you today. Once you have that, you can go ahead and open up your eyes. We're going to take our first big breath in. Raise those arms up overhead. You can take your gaze with those hands, just creating some nice length in the side bodies. And as we exhale, turning those palms out and floating those arms back down. Once again, big breath in, arms go up overhead. As we exhale, floating those arms back down one more time. Third time, big breath in, biggest so far. In through the nose, holding it at the top. Big reach in the side bodies and up overhead. And as we exhale this time, we are going to twist to the right, bringing that right arm behind us, taking that left hand to that right knee. That twist is generated from our core. And you can take that gaze out over your right shoulder to complete that twist. We're just going to hold here for about 2 breaths. We're not leaning into that back arm. We're sitting up nice and tall, still firmly rooted in those sit bones. As we untwist, those arms will come back up overhead again. Gaze is with the hands. As we exhale, twisting down to that opposite side. Remember, that's generated from the core. We're not using this arm that is resting on this left knee now to crank us around. You should be able to just pick that up. You can take that gaze out over that left rear shoulder now. One more breath here. Next big breath in, we untwist, arms come back up overhead. Hands down through heart center, sitting up nice and tall. We're going to take that right arm and extend it out in front of us so that palm is facing the opposite wall. We'll take those left palm to those right fingers and gently flex back, just creating some length in these muscles underneath now and also in that wrist. This is going to prepare our wrists for when we finally begin to transition up. Things like downward dog, as we go through sun salutations. Flip that palm over now, gentle pressure on the top of the hand. Now we're creating some length up here and then the upper structure of the wrist. Anytime we're doing anything like this, it should not be painful. Make sure to meet yourself where you're at. Right? You know your limits, you know your body. What we refer to in studio as the working edge. That'll give you some indication of just how much pressure is required in something like this. Go ahead and swap those hands out so that left palm is now facing the opposite wall and that right hand is flexing back on those fingers. Once again, flipping that hand over so the palm is facing you now and gentle pressure on the top of the hand. We're going to get to the neck next. All right, just roll those wrists out. Like I said, we're just getting everything ready. You can switch directions. Everything in our yoga practice is about preparation. We're prepared instead of reacting like we do in most of our life. Really quick, for anybody who's been, overly stressed out about all the goings on in the world, probably holding it in your neck and shoulder region like I do. Just try and take that right ear to that right shoulder. Not bringing the shoulder up to meet it, just dipping that neck. So you're creating some length over here. Then rolling forward, chin to chest. Don't let this change your posture at all. Stay up nice and tall and just put your chin to your chest. That left ear to that left shoulder now. And then finally tilting that head back, opening up that throat chakra. You can just kind of weeble wobble that too, like you do with your wrists. All right, as easily as you can, making your way over onto all fours. And as y'all transition, just let you know if any point, and I don't see any indication of it yet, but if any point, if my video on this end begins to lag or if it pauses or something, just continue with your practice. And if I notice something happening over there, I will make some adjustments. And then when I'm back online, if that occurs, you can catch up with whatever I'm doing at that point. All right. So making our way onto all fours. All right. I'm gonna make sure you can just see me there. Okay. So we have our palms nice and spread out. So we have a good firm base. Our shoulders are stacked directly over our wrists. Our hips are stacked directly over our knees. Tops of our feet are anchored into the mat. We're going to go through several of our cat-cows. And so these posture sequences in particular are meant to happen with our breath. So as we inhale, we'll dip our navel towards the mat, rolling our hips, which will put that nice little swoop in our back. Draw our head back, opening our throat again. Big breath in, trying to fill up that whole body space. And as we exhale through the mouth, we'll pull that navel in, pushing up and away out of our hands. And then we'll go chin to chest. This is our cat posture. Breathing in into our cow. Exhaling, pushing up and away, pulling in, chin to chest for our cat. Just go through several of these on your own. We're likely all on different breath schemes. Just a couple. Begin to get some of that separation in the spine. While I'll do that, I'm going to try and make sure that this there we go. All right. One more time of each. So one more cat, one more cow. Big breath in. Exhaling through the mouth. And then meeting me back at that neutral tabletop spine. So I'm going to start with my left leg because that's the one that's facing y'all. And from my next breath, I'm going to reach back with that left leg so it's nice and straight. All right, my toes and the ball of that left foot are now engaged, and I'm pushing back through that heel. And if I keep my gaze in between my hands, which are stacked directly beneath my shoulders, I'll have a straight line from the crown of my head all the way back to my heel. When you're ready, if it's in your practice today, you can lift that left leg up so that it's in line with your spine. And then you can also reach that right arm, that opposite arm out long and in front of you, keeping your head down so everything's in a straight line. And coming back down, hand first, then toes, then knee. We're going to do the same thing on the opposite side. So going back to those toe points on that right leg now, the ball of that foot is engaged, and we're pushing back through that heel. Gaze is down between the hands. When you're ready, lifting that leg up so it's even with that back, for your spine that is. You can also reach that opposite arm, that left arm out long and in front now. This is our spinal balance. Just take a couple of breaths here. Bringing that hand back down first, the plant, back down to the toes, then the knee. We're going to curl both sets of toes now and push those hips up for our first downward dog of the practice. From here, we can begin to pedal out the legs, alternating dropping those heels towards the mat, creating some length in the back of the legs. I'm pulling my head out to talk to you, but you want to keep that head, so that your ears are in between those biceps. So pushing up nice and strong out of those hands, getting that head through the window, as we call it. Bringing those knees back down, uncurling those toes. Here we are back in our all fours position. We're going to get some power going now, some power and some balance. When you're ready, we're going to curl those toes. And on that next big breath in, we're going to do this 3 times just for expectation purposes. We're going to hover those knees and those shins above the mat. You want to fully engage your core for this. And remember to breathe. So here we go. Big breath in. This is our bear pose. We keep those shoulders stacked above the wrists and the elbows. The natural thing is to kind of fall back to give some relief to those relief to everywhere. But you want to make sure to keep everything stacked. We'll just float those knees back down gently. Take a quick breath here, and then back up again. We got both sets of the balls of the feet engaged, and we're pushing through both sets of heels. Remember, engage that core, and breathe, unclench your jaw, then float those knees back down one more time. This will be the third and last time we do the bear pose. It'll also be the longest. Here we go. Everybody's got this. Let's do it. So you can just kind of talk yourself through my shoulders stacked, or my knees where they're supposed to be. Is my core engaged? Is my breathing? Why am I talking to myself? As long as you're breathing, that's the most important part. One more breath here. Bring those knees back down gently. Uncurl those toes. Bring those big toes together. Send the knees out wide. We're going to walk the hands forward and release our chest towards the mat for our first child's pose of the practice. when we're in child's pose, we can check back in with our breath. We can check back in with our intention that we set at the beginning of practice. It's our first real litmus test, first real indicator after we've done some movement about what it is that we're trying to accomplish. Maybe it's time to reset that intention. I find that out sometimes. The intention I set was something that I hoped for, but it was wrong. And when I got moving, I found out what was right. So child's pose is perfect for that. Bringing those hands back to plant now so they can support our weight. Remember, palms are spread out nice and full. We're going to walk those knees back underneath us. We're going to curl both sets of toes again. Send those hips up for down dog once more. And from here, we're just going to walk those feet up to meet those hands. You can just kind of hang here. I'm switching places. You don't have to, but I want to make sure that I'm cognizant of where the camera is. But you can just kind of ragdoll here for a moment. It's the first time we've been standing all practice. You can let your head hang, reach for the mat. You can take opposite hands to opposite elbows. Sway a little bit left and right. We're just trying to create some space now that we're finally standing. You can come up to halfway lift. So our hands are on our knees. Our gaze is down just in front of our feet. So our spine and our neck are staying in alignment with one another. And a nice tabletop back here. And then timing it out with our next breath sequence, we're going to take a big breath in and rise all the way up. Arms go back overhead, similar to how they did when we began. A lot of length in the side bodies here. You can pull that head all the way through that window. And as we exhale, floating those arms down, we're going to reach for opposite wrists or opposite forearms, whatever you can get access to. And as we do that, I want you to push your chest up and out and pull your shoulders back and down. Put a little slight tilt in your head here. Open up your throat once more. This is for all my folks that have been working either at their desk or in some uncomfortable position on their couch, trying to manage their laptop and their cell phone and their kids and their dog. This will really create some chest separation for those of us who have just been kind of hunched. Couple of nice, quick, big breaths in here, exhaling through the mouth. Really leveraging those wrists and forearms to push that chest up and out and pull those shoulders back and down. You'll feel it. One more breath here. Releasing gently. Just kind of shaking that out a little bit. All right, so we're going to go through about 3 sequences of sun salutations. This is a perfect time of day to do it. Most people, would recommend that you do this first thing in the morning. I don't disagree, but it has the same practical benefits and applications late in the day when we're less prone to take care of ourselves. We kind of just want to get home and want to decompress, want to unwind. There's really, truly no better way to do that than giving your body some movement, some energy, creating some space to allow for all that to happen. So we're going to start in our mountain pose up near The top of our mat, I usually tell people about 1 pace off, so you can just take a foot up there. Our feet are going to be hips distance apart. I'm trying to make sure you can see me here. So you can check hips distance, and when I look at myself in the camera, I can see, yeah, my feet are hips distance, but you can eyeball them. There's a couple other ways to check too, though. You can take 1 foot and turn it in, and if that big toe enters into that foot archway, your hips distance. You can also take your fists in alignment with one another, and if they fit in between those 2 feet, your hips distance. So that's just a couple of ways for you to go through the motions of checking there. I know I and a couple other people I know are always looking for a proper alignment. Not because it's neat or orderly, because it's just something that makes us feel better. Maybe you're one of those people. You're welcome. All right, so we're going to start here in our mountain base. Hands to heart center, gaze directly ahead. And as with everything else in yoga and what we've been doing so far this evening, everything's going to be guided by our breath. So big breath in here. Trying to fill up that whole body space like it's a balloon. As we exhale, hinging at the hips, coming to that nice tabletop back. Halfway lift, gaze is right down there at the edge of our mat. Breathing in here. As we exhale, releasing to forward fold. Releasing that head and those hands towards the mat. As we exhale, slight bend in the knees, plant those hands, step back to plank. Re-engaging the balls of the feet here, pushing back through those heels. Shoulders are stacked over those wrists again. And our spine is straight because our gaze is down between our hands. We're going to release down slow. Do chaturanga. Uncurl those toes and find our back bend. So you can stay low for a low cobra. This is where you're at today. Come up a little bit higher for a high cobra. And if you really pin those hips to the mat and engage those elbows fully, and if you want to make it a little spicier, you can anchor those tops of the feet again and get those thighs off the ground. That's up dog. So as we go back through the sequence, I'll just say choose your back bend today and just choose one of those options. So we'll release back down, curl those toes again. We're going to make one big push up to down dog. We'll just be here for that one breath. And then walk those feet up to meet those hands again. Forward fold. Halfway lift. So we're just coming back out of the sequence the same way we went into it. Next big breath in. We're going to rise all the way up. Hands down through heart center. And so next time, well, this time, we're going to go through it a little bit more fluidly. All right, so in my beginner class in the studio, this is how we do it. This is how we meet everybody where they're at. This is how we keep the practice approachable. It's not overwhelming the beginner. So big breath in here, mountain. Exhaling, halfway lift, hinge at the hips, tabletop back. Breathing in again. Exhaling, forward fold. Bending the knees, planting those hands, stepping back to plank. Nice, strong, straight lines here. Releasing down slow, elbows to ribs. Find your back bend. Releasing back down. Curling the toes, big push to down dog. Walking those feet up to meet those hands. Forward fold. Halfway lift. And big breath in, raising those arms up overhead. Hands down through heart center. So this third one, I'm not going to talk much. I'll just let you free flow in the sun salutation. And when you're done, just meet me back in mountain, ready to go. Okay? Enjoy your flow for just a moment. Halfway lift. Forward fold. Rising back up. Okay, so I know because I've been teaching for a while now that some people go through their flows a little bit slower, and some go through a little bit quicker. But I feel like everybody should be right back around mountain about now. So we're going to do a little bit of balance. Beginners love balance. It really kind of helps set the stage or give them this way to take their temperature of how far they've come in a very short amount of time, usually 1 class, 2 classes, 3 classes. And by the way, if I haven't already done so, please come to the studio or invite anyone you know who has been kind of yoga curious. Our beginner classes are super approachable. As you can see, I'm mid 40-year-old, white, bald male. A couple years ago, I didn't think I could do yoga. And here I am teaching on the internet now. So, all right. So one of the most common, most well-known balance postures in all of yoga is the tree pose. We're going to start by taking the intention of balance into our left side from this mountain position. And really, it's just asking our body to do something for us. That's what we mean when we talk about taking the intention into the left side. So I'm going to ask the left side of my body to support all of my weight and give me everything I need for just a few breaths. And then when I've convinced it to do so, I'm going to begin to shift my weight there, just rocking ever so slightly until that right foot becomes weightless. You can see I can just pick it up. All right. And then I'm going to park it kickstand style on that left leg. So that heel is kind of coming right above that ankle. All right. And this is where you're at today. This is where you can stay. My right foot, as you can see, not doing anything. I am balancing completely on my left side. This is a balance posture for a beginner. If you got a little bit more, you can bring the arch of that foot up into that calf. They fit perfectly together. And we're opening up that right hip, right? So that right knee is now facing out that way. And if this is where you're at, stay here. If you have a little bit more, that little bit more needs to go above the knee into the inner thigh. We don't want to end up in the knee putting any kind of flex on that kneecap itself. So, we see some people who have to come up here, right? That's fine. Or you can cross that knee out in front as if you were sitting in a chair. When we get here, wherever you are today, low, middle, high, you can extend those arms up. grow that tree, and just remember to breathe. Bring those hands back to heart center. Stepping down. And kind of walk that left leg out. It did what we asked it to do. If you had to put that foot down a couple of times, do one of these numbers, that's okay. You're still practicing, okay? All right, so now you're going to see, hopefully, that your right side, not because it's your strong side, even if it is or it isn't, but our body is more informed now by what we've put it through by starting, on one side and not the other. You should, I want to be careful with that word should, you may just see how this right side feels. If you feel stronger, regardless of your assessment of what happened over there on the left. So taking that intention of balance into the right side, big breath in through the nose. As we exhale, starting to shift our weight there till that left foot becomes weightless. We're balancing. Can park that heel right next to that ankle. All right. You can see that I'm balancing entirely. And then going through that progression up. So taking that arch of that foot, hooking it into that calf. This is where you're at today. You're awesome. You got a little bit more, you can go higher or out in front. And then when you get to where you're going, you can grow that tree again. Bringing those hands back to heart center. That foot back down. And just walk it out a little bit. Good job, gang. All right, we are going to come. We got about 12 minutes left. That's perfect. Everything's, I love it when a plan comes together. So we're going to come back up at the top of our mat, about one pace off. We're going to begin to kind of de-escalate a little bit, but there's still going to be some spicy stuff to do, so don't fret. Bringing our hands back to heart center, taking a big breath in. We're going to go into what looks like our sun salutation sequence, but it's just going to allow us to get down. So as we exhale, coming to halfway lift, tabletop back, gaze is down in front of our feet, releasing to forward fold. Bending at the knees, planting those hands, stepping back to plank. From here, we're just going to drop the knees gently one by one till we're back in that all fours position. And once you get here, I want you to walk those hands back to meet those knees until we're sitting back on our heels, or you could be in a high kneeling position. Actually, just be in the high kneeling position for this particular sequence. So pick a leg, left or right, doesn't matter which. And we're just going to step that leg out in front of us. Now you'll notice, because I can see it in the camera, that knee is set back from that ankle. So that foot is out farther than this knee, just by a little bit. It doesn't have to be accentuated much, because we are going to extend our energy forward, leading with our hips. So we come into a forward lunge position. And now that knee is stacked directly over that ankle. And this is how we get into a low lunge from a beginner posture sequence. Now we're going to hinge at the hips, and we're going to take both hands inside of this lead leg, so inside the arch of the foot. Come down to fists here, or you can be palms down. If you have a block at home, this would be a good place to put a block right inside that foot. Just make sure, and I'll turn around for the camera for a second so you can see, right? That's what this setup looks like. Keeping that knee pinned up against that tricep. We don't want that foot to roll or that knee to sway out. All right. So this is where we're going to be. This is low lunge. All right. And you may be feeling this already. All right. And if you are, Great. If you want to add a little bit to that, you can take and curl the toes on that back leg. All right, I got my right leg back, and engage that back leg until that knee comes up off the ground. All right, so the ball of that foot is now engaged again. I'm pushing back through that heel, keeping that knee pinned up against that front tricep. My gaze is down with my hand so that my neck is in line with my spine. I'm not going to tell you where you should be feeling this. Like I said, we're all at different levels of our yoga practice. Just be here for about one more breath. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring this back knee down gently, not crashing it to the floor. Uncurl those toes, anchor that foot again. Then we're just going to hinge back at the hips, standing back up. We're going to slide this leg back into space. All right, and then we're going to do the opposite leg because yoga and life are about balance. So stepping that leg out in front, slightly offset. We're going to lunge forward till that knee stacks over that ankle. All right, and I didn't show you earlier, but you can kind of use that back leg if you're not going to engage it to deepen the stretch some. So we're really just trying to sit down in these hips more. We're going to hinge at the hips again, bringing both hands inside that lead foot. Then you're invited to curl the toes on that back foot, engage that back leg. So we're back in our low lunge now. It's also called lizard pose. Not really sure why it's called lizard pose. I mean, I took a lot of hours of yoga training, 200 to be exact. We went through all the names and the foreign language names, the animal associated names, and I still don't know why this is called lizard pose. Feel free to put that in the comments. One more breath here. We're going to bring that knee down gently, uncurl those toes. Walk our hands back and stand up. And slide that knee back into space. We're just going to walk our hands back out until we're in that all fours now. We're going to do a little bit more hip stuff, just really quickly, because we're getting towards the end now. So curl both sets of toes. We're going to send our hips up for down dog for the last time. From here, we're going to walk the feet together. All right. Go up under our tiptoes and pick up that right leg behind us. And keep a bend in that knee. You really need to push out of those hands now. We're going to bring that leg up underneath us so that right knee meets that right wrist. And walk that that back leg out behind. We're in our pigeon pose now. For those of y'all that can't see, for everyone that knows what pigeon is that's on the stream, feel free to get in it and be in it. For everyone who might be new to yoga, joining the stream for the first time, so we were in down dog. That leg was behind us. We came through till that knee met that wrist, right? That front leg is kind of at a slight angle. It could be 90, could be 65. It could be right behind you. But we're just kind of sitting down into this posture with this front leg on the ground. That back leg is back behind us, all right? This is what it looks like from the other angle. So from here, high. All right, we're just sitting down into those hips. You can stay up here nice and high, all right? This is high pigeon. You can release down to those forearms for low pigeon. We usually reserve this towards the end because it puts a lot of spiciness into the hip area. We like to make sure those are warmed up before we get here. I've been to a lot of gyms and stuff where they'll put you into this kind of stretch really early. I don't recommend it, but you know yourself, you know your body, so do whatever you feel most comfortable with. All right, so here we are, still in pigeon while I've been talking. All right, and the way that we get out of this, we're going to curl the toes on this back leg. We're going to engage it just like we did for that lunge, so that knee comes up off the ground. All right, and then we're going to slide this front leg back to plank again. Pushing back up to down dog. Picking that opposite leg up behind us now. Bringing it underneath. So that left knee meets that left wrist. Disengaging that back leg. And then choosing the elevation of your pigeon. You can be up here and high, right? You can drop down, release your chest towards the mat. Use your forearms to support you. We'll just be here for one breath. When this is all done, this will be the last posture that we do. When this is all done, feel free to go back through this or, re-engage any of the postures that you liked. You can hold them for a little bit longer. That's normally what we would do in the studio, given the time constraints that we're operating under. All right, so making sure that our hands can support our weight. We're going to re-engage that back foot again. Get that knee up off the ground. Slide that leg back through to plank. We're going to release down slow. Find that last back bend. Release back down. And then from here, you can just flip onto your back and find that resting position. Or you can bring yourself around back into a seated position with me. We roughly have about 3 minutes left, and we're going to spend the rest of it in quiet meditation. I'll just sit here for a moment and hold space with you. As we did in the beginning, whether you're seated, sitting high up in those sit bones, nice straight spine, you're invited to close your eyes again, or whether you're laying in that prone corpse position, just take note of your breath once more. Get back to it, check back in with it. Let it always be the lighthouse that brings you back. Your light in the dark. It's the one thing that will always be consistent and never fail you. When you're feeling anxious in times like these, or in your everyday life, find your breath. Don't try and change it again. Don't try and alter it in any way. Just be with it as it is. Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, thank you for choosing to practice today. Thank you for trusting me to lead you. Thank you most of all for choosing yourself. You are worthy. You are deserving. You are enough. The light within me sees, honors, and respects the light within each of you. Namaste. If you like what you saw today, when you're done with your Shavasana, please follow Space Yoga Studio on YouTube and Instagram, as well as Facebook. Make sure to subscribe, click like on the posts and the YouTube content. And you can also follow Focus on Recovery on Facebook and Instagram. And make sure you share with your entire network. We're going to be doing this every single day until otherwise instructed to go back to our normal daily routines, at which point you can come join us at the studio again. Beginner yoga is every Tuesday morning at 10 a.m. I also teach community yogas several times a month, or at least once a month. Every Saturday at 10 a.m. those classes benefit Project Create Space. Love and light, my friends. Thank you so much.